That rings a bell for me. Morning, guys. And today I have the pleasure of welcoming dear Axel Rates back to the channel. Thank you, Axel, for taking the time, even on such short notice, to share your thoughts on this topic. It's all over the media. First, welcome, Axel, my friend.
Dear Philipp Schlaffer, long time no see. I think it's been about a week now. Every day we've been recording for a long time, producing a lot. Just yesterday, 5.5 hours. So you can see that we're really working here to make sure you get top premium content. Unfortunately, it's often about sad topics. But that's unavoidable when it comes to extremism, radicalization, terrorism, and crime. That makes our message even more meaningful. You can overcome it. We did. That's why you watch. Thank you so much.
The topic today, Donald Trump classifies Antifa as a terrorist organization. Axel and I see that differently.
I wouldn't say it like that at all. It's about individual issues where we differ, but just to get ahead of things as an introduction. Of course, it's a real scandal. I'm not saying that because I have a great sympathy for militant anti-fascists in the United States or would do what they do. But rather, if we keep in mind that the United States is the country where the motto is everything goes. Here we have militant right-wing extremist organizations like the Proud Boys, thugs, hooligans out on the streets. We have the Ku Klux Klan, a terrorist organization, which Donald Trump, by the way, already promised in 2020 that he would designate as a terrorist organization. Not important enough. Aryan Brotherhood. We have so many murderous, terrorist, violent, and inciting groups in the United States of America that no one does anything about. It's hard for us to understand because here in Germany we already have a much more pronounced culture of banning things. But in the United States of America, it's now a no-go and unacceptable because a single organization was selectively singled out that just happens to fit the current political agenda. To be criminalized, yes, for the individual perpetrator who murdered Charlie Kirk in the attack. And that really says a lot, and it's something that just makes me shake my head. I think, man, either you put everything on the red list and say, now we're cracking down, now we're making a terrorist organization.
But I'm also concerned since I strongly support the rule of law.
Under an organizational form that wants to exist through disorganization, which is still connected through shared symbols and ideas that exist in people's minds but are structured differently. You can't ban it completely? No, not at all.
You have to be precise there.
Take a closer look. Where is it justified and where are people actually militant? Then the question needs to be clarified. Is this militancy the same as terrorism? Are there really terrorist acts?
Don't we want to avoid jumping to conclusions? So first of all, I have to say, basically, I find it hard to say that Antifa exists as a single entity and that Antifa is a terrorist organization. Well, I'm sorry, but from my point of view, I define terrorism very differently. In Germany, we thankfully distinguish groups like these as criminal organizations or armed gangs. The paragraph that should be brought up now.
So constitutional freedom is the lowest level and you really have to differentiate. I know many people are there now, angry citizens fuming and speaking out. But that's terrorism. If someone throws a paving stone here, that's terror. Yes, but otherwise everything becomes terrorism. That's why there are different levels. And terrorism is indeed a serious crime that not only endangers lives, but also seeks to destroy them. Yes, and those are bomb attacks. So these are things that have a completely different impact. Compared to when a few rowdies and some political hooligans show off on the street, get into fights and throw paving stones.
Yeah, well, I have to.
Yeah, not that someone puts words in our mouths again. Yeah, Rise and Schlaffer, the Antifa sympathizers. No question, that's also sometimes unconstitutional, that's criminal, but it's not terrorism in that sense. And not every anti-fascist either. Those who walk around with the Antifa symbol are automatically criminals, are automatically violent offenders. There are all kinds of different groups.
How is Antifa defined here? Who is Antifa? You have to look at individual groups. Just because someone is showing the so-called Antifa flag. In case someone thinks so, let me show you. That's not even the Antifa flag. Antifa groups also have other symbols, so not everyone is united under that. There are discussions about that too. Opinions, Philip.
There are divisions. As right-wing extremists, we supposedly wouldn't know since we've never had divisions among us.
Even among right-wing extremists.
There are divisions in the scene with groups that can't get along and some fighting over the true path. And what you can say, though, is that similar to the independent comradeships, there is just a loose organization. As I just mentioned, it's through shared symbols, shared meeting points, shared events, which are sometimes organized differently and are not dictated from above. There is definitely a sense of unity, there is a structure, but this structure is not like a real association where you can say, oh, everything is organized, there's someone at the top, there are sub-leaders who oversee things, that what is dictated from above is actually carried out. That's just not the case in many areas. But that's
After the speech that Donald Trump gave, I hate my enemies. Yes, exactly. This is the reaction here. 1 or 2 days later, that's the reaction to it, and to say, we're going after you. Stephen Miller said it again at the funeral, at the memorial service for Charlie Kirk. So that's a furious speech against the opponents, against the left, against everything. We're all being put under general suspicion. Yes.
It won't end there, Philip. That was only the first shot. Many people still say, oh yeah, Antifa were the ones who rioted at the Black Lives Matter protests. I don't care about that, but after that, it will continue. Yeah, I don't think this is the end, that this was just a cosmetic measure so Trump can say, yeah, I follow my words with actions. I really think there's a plan behind this to build an authoritarian structure and to completely take out the opponents who are targeted with hate. And it won't just stay at the fringes that are affected now, this will reach all the way into the center. To the media, to judges, even to politicians who are not supposed to submit to the Trump doctrine and to this person.
Axel, I would like to refer to the article from Deutschlandfunk, which was one of the first to report on this morning. According to the White House, he signed a corresponding decree in Washington. It refers to a pattern of political violence aimed at suppressing legitimate political activities and undermining the rule of law. The broad term Antifa stands for anti-fascist. According to a 2020 study by the Congressional Research Service, the movement has no leader and no organizational structure at the national level in the United States. Rather, it consists of independent, radical, and like-minded groups as well as individuals. Trump had already been threatening to classify Antifa as a terrorist organization for some time. And here you just have to say it. What could generally hinder the work of anti-fascists would be later. Yeah, well, I think for Donald Trump, that's what I'm imagining right now. He sees anyone opposing him as anti-fascist. I believe being anti-fascist is simply part of being a Democrat. We've said that several times here on this channel. And yeah.
I always say it like this in my lectures, and I think that's a good guiding principle. Every Democrat is an anti-fascist by definition, but not all anti-fascists are Democrats.
So, Axel said it earlier. I got the news this morning. I immediately told Axel, we have to do something about it. I have dealt with so many radical extremist groups in the United States myself, where it's always about weapons, where it's always been about arming themselves. You just have to say it, the affinity for violence in combination with being armed. When it comes to that, right-wing extremism is always above left-wing extremism for me. So whoever looks at that and says that's a big fascination with arming themselves from left-wing extremism exists in these groups when it comes to weapons and a general hostility toward people. I don't see it that way. So we really have to differentiate here. And this, what's happening here in the United States, is an absolute scandal. I can only tell everyone to look at which extremist groups from the far right are active in the United States. Now, Donald Trump is seizing the moment. It would be acceptable to ban and label individual Antifa, right-wing extremist or Islamist groups as terrorist organizations. But then it's the cells that the FBI is responsible for. Or, for that matter, other law enforcement agencies in the United States to look into which groups are joining them. That requires an investigative result. These 12 people have come together because they want to build pipe bombs together, because they want to do this and that. But such a general thing now.
Is that enough, Philip? Is it enough now if you say, I want to go to a Trump rally and then start a counter protest?
Yes, that's already enough.
That's the background behind it. And like I said, you don't need to come to us, Philip and me, about it now. we'd be downplaying left-wing extremism and wouldn't have left-wing terrorists on our radar. We're always there. We're always quick to address that. I'm someone who, as a liberal, also advocates for more government intervention than is currently the case. But what's happening here follows the dictator's playbook. First, they're testing the waters. How can I use such decrees to harm the opposition? And especially because it's not really a clearly defined network, Trump can use that to target other political opponents as well. It might be enough that some Democratic politician attended an event where there were also Antifa members. Yeah, then suddenly it's like, aha, a network. Now we can use that against them too.
He is
A terrorism supporter. That's very dangerous. Yes, that's extremely dangerous. And it's also hypocritical when we look at all the militant citizen militias running around, all the clan structures, neo-Nazi structures, and white supremacy structures that exist. Yes, all the existing right-wing terrorist groups as well.
here. Axel, look here. This here is a march. This is totally fine for Donald Trump. A neo-Nazi march from TRT neo-Nazi march in the United States of America.
I still see the anti-first action image. You haven't given me the new image, so I can't see it now. Philip just started the channel and is new to technology. Let's not be negative.
So
I just have to say, that's just how the United States of America is, and now everyone jumps on it because it's a political opponent of Donald Trump. No, just say clearly what's happening in the United States of America. Do you mean me?
Also, the context, I would have felt it was wrong either way, but I could have understood it emotionally. Trump is just an egomaniac. Trump is someone who always goes with his gut feeling, and that's what makes him so highly manipulable for people who understand which buttons they need to push. Let's assume the attacker on Charlie Kirk had been hardcore anti-family for 20 years and had discussed it in his group. We have to target the Trump supporters now. Kirk was the first, and I still couldn't answer it in a good way. But could I understand it on a human level if he had said, I'm going to smash the whole place to pieces now? But it's certain that it was a lone perpetrator. Yes, it's certain. There was no network behind it. There was no master plan behind it. Yes, and from the very beginning, Trump and his administration spread this narrative. He spoke about it from the start. We are now going to tackle the networks behind it. We are now going to dismantle the networks. Yes, those who make something like this possible with their ideas, their attitude, their propaganda, their hostility toward Trump. And that was the first step he took. As I said, I believe more will follow. And that's not just extremely dangerous, but also simply hypocritical when we look at what else is tolerated, allowed, and accepted in the United States.
We don't want to give a lengthy input. I'd just like to replay the NTV clip to show our point.
The United States president wants to prevent protests like these in the future. During Trump's first term, members of the Anti-Fascist Action, or Antifa for short, protested in front of the White House, calling the United States government at the time Nazi scum. Now, Trump has officially classified the movement as a terrorist organization. His spokesperson justifies the move by saying that we are experiencing an increase in violence by radical Antifa supporters. Antifa is said to be a militaristic, anarchistic organization that calls for the overthrow of the United States government and the legal system by violent means. Experts consider the left-wing to far-left group more as a kind of loose network and relatively harmless.
I was just about to say also a militaristic association, so that too.
I know what they mean. I have absolutely no idea about these structures in the United States of America, to be honest. I can also talk about my experiences and insights in Germany now. The so-called Black Bloc, which doesn't even exist here anymore in the same way as it did in the 80s and 90s. They had a really tough organization. They acted based on hand signals, and they even trained in a military sense. If that's supposed to be the case in parts in the United States as well, it's probably being used now to pretend. There's an army-like structure that attacks democracy and so on and so forth. In fact, many of them are political hooligans, some are rioters, some are revolutionary dreamers, and there are also some very dangerous people. You can't ignore that, but they don't represent the whole organization. Must it be that way? In the United States, you can oppose the government.
I've also met people from Antifa groups at my public lectures who absolutely abhor violence. So
Not me, so
I met them at my lectures, and I got to know some individuals from there who also reject violence. They say we do anti-fascist work, educational work, but we still call ourselves Antifa. We also criticize the Hammer Gang or whatever, though I don't always want to mention them since they're just an example. Someone might mention the Red Army faction, but to me, that's just not the same as right-wing extremism. You have to say it. Axel, I can't hear you. Maybe your mic is off.
turn your mic on now.
Now it's working now.
Okay, I didn't do anything at all, okay? I'm saying it's like a meatball, everything is in there. Yeah, there's a wide range. There are people ranging from really militant ones, even up to those taking terrorist actions, all the way to peaceful ones who just say, yeah, sure. To me, being anti-fascist means defending democracy and protesting Nazis. Yes, that's exactly how it is in the United States of America, too. We saw Bernie Sanders supporters marching alongside some guys who actually want to bring militancy to the streets here. That needs close attention, and the criminals should be dealt with. If there are individual groups that are active in terrorism, of course they should be dismantled. But this idea of using a broad term and criminalizing everything and everyone just because they want to overthrow the government, Trump spends time with people. Hardcore libertarians are those who want to abolish the state entirely and react defiantly whenever someone brings it up. If the state wants to implement even one measure here, that's already leading to communism. And now they're acting as if he's the great protector of the state. It's a transparent act. It's a transparent act.
The classification is part of a series of developments following the attack on Charlie Kirk nearly 2 weeks ago, which experts consider a threat to freedom of speech. Trump is gradually targeting all Americans who publicly criticize his policies. This includes the predecessors.
For
the cancellation of the Late Night Show by comedian Jimmy Kimmel by the broadcaster American Broadcasting Company and parent company Disney. After Kimmel commented on the attack on the right-wing activist, after intense public pressure and criticism of American Broadcasting Company and Disney, Kimmel returns to United States television today, but not nationwide. There have been talks with him, according to Disney. Kimmel's supporters are celebrating the comeback as a victory for freedom of speech.
yes, thank you to NTV. Yes, Jimmy Kimmel. Let's wait and see. Maybe we'll do something like this again. I have to say that today and in the past few days, other countries in Europe have followed suit. Viktor Orban is leading the way.
The Antifa Trump supporter who has already attended Turning Point conferences wants to do the same. That doesn't surprise me. Viktor
Orban also seeks to label Antifa as a terrorist group in Hungary. Gerd Wilders in Holland has also submitted to the parliament to classify Antifa as a terrorist organization. The wind is getting rougher. I myself consider myself an anti-fascist, personally. I say all groups that work against the rule of law, that work against the liberal democratic order, should be treated as extremists. These groups, but this general thing, those are terrorists. Oh dear, it scares me to start. Also extremist.
Not every extremist is a terrorist.
But I'm also kind of scared about what's going on here. Yeah.
If we bring out such weapons and such measures now, and I'm telling you, it will happen, that people who were just in some loose alliance or at a joint event with those now addressed individuals will be affected. Media, Fox News, One America News, terror supporters, terror friends, terror helpers. Yes, and with that, a branding is already being created again. A climate is being created that contributes to further division, that empowers others to violence and hatred. Yes, the supposedly justified anger that Stephen Miller was ranting about. This is a serious matter that we are observing in the United States, and it's not surprising. Yes, anyone who has followed our streams about the United States, Charlie Kirk, and so on will know that we have already predicted this quite accurately. It wasn't hard to foresee this, and we weren't alone. Still, it's unfortunate we were right. I wish I'd been wrong about that.
Yeah, Axel, that's how it is. Thank you so much for your input. Of course, we'll stay on top of what happens here next. I can imagine that there will soon be the first measures here, which will also be presented in the media. I was shocked to hear that today. Terrorist organization? Let's wait and see. Donald Trump also signed the decrees very quickly, as we saw on election night. I think he signed hundreds of decrees. That's a message to everyone, including enemies here. The United States of America punishes terrorism very differently. We're not talking about it like in Germany. Over there, you're probably risking your lifelong freedom. No, and Axel, thanks for your time. Check out Axel's book. That's all from us. Thank you. You can find everything here, the support. Thanks to those who do it. Thank you with Philipp Schlaffer. Everything about meat, rap, and so on. Weizheit Plus, all about sports with Philipp Schlaffer. Thanks. Thumbs up or down. Feel free to comment. I'm interested in your thoughts. I read many comments, or else I feel like repeating this. There are still a lot of great responses coming in. Write your opinion in the comments. We would be interested in that. Axel, thank you very much for your time. And as always, we say goodbye with an ahoy from the coast.